And then the second one I stayed in, I met some wonderful people too as well. We went into the shelter and we stayed there for about 3 months, I think. I think it was longer than that, because I think we went in there like a little bit after Thanksgiving of 2011, I think. And we was there until at least like the end of May. So yeah, I stayed there for about 6 months. And then when I was getting ready to leave, they had changed the time limit you can stay in there, because there was too many people staying there too long. So they give you a time limit when you go into the shelter, and you have to find you a place by this time. And even if you don't find a place, you still gotta go. You gotta find somewhere to go. Same for the first shelter as well. When your time is up in that shelter, you got to go. You got to find. That's why you got to be on it and find your place while you're there, you know. Or you be screwed. You're just gonna continue to be homeless when you leave out of there. They try to help you to. They even, like this particular shelter, they even help you with the deposit when you going to rent a place or whatever. They help you sign up for Section 8, you know, housing assistance and stuff like that. They even help you, they even paid for daycare for my daughter, you know, and they would give me rides to appointments and stuff like that if I had an appointment, or if I didn't want, if they didn't, you know, sometimes, most time I ride the bus to go wherever I needed to go. But for most part they had transportation, and they would use they had a van driver that would take us to the church. We stayed in a church every week. We stayed in a different church every week. And I tell you, this was a great experience for me, because I loved it. I loved meeting all those people in those churches, the wonderful people who volunteered to feed us and house us that week. I just loved it. I love the idea that this shelter provide. I just love the idea they had to, like, sleep in a different church every week. Now the center, where the office, where the main shelter is actually inside of a church. So sometimes we would stay in that church as well. It would just be on the 3rd floor of the church. Sometimes we stay in hotels for a week, which was the best for us, because when we stayed in hotels, we didn't have to go by curfew. The curfew was like, I think 6 or 6:30 or something like that. If you worked, it was a little bit less. It was more, they give you time, because if you worked, you'd be at work and, you know, whatever. So you just come to church that night after you get off of work. But they really help you. They encourage you to save your money, so that when you get ready to move, you can have money to move when you get ready. Whenever you needed any kind of feminine products or anything like that, soap, any diapers for your babies and all that kind of stuff, they provided that. If you needed clothes or whatever, they help you with that too. If you needed a bus pass to ride the bus, they would give you a bus pass. If you needed toothbrushes, toothpaste, they gave you all that. They even had a shower inside the day center. They call it the day center. We all had chores. Everybody had chores that we had to do each day. But this is how it went. We would get up in the morning around 6 or 7. The van would come pick us up from where we were staying. If we didn't have a car, if we had our own car, we just go straight to the center. Some people had their own cars, but most of the time people didn't have a car. So the van driver would come pick us up early in the morning from the church, and then we'll drop the kids off at school if it's during the weekday, or daycare. And if we didn't work or whatever, we'll go back to the center, and then we'll do our chores or whatever, and then we had to leave at a certain time. And then we couldn't be in the center. We couldn't sit there, and so they had like a little, like a living room type area where we could sit and chill and watch TV or whatever. And we had like, each had our own individual like big lockers where we could lock our stuff up so nobody want to touch our stuff. We had like little lockers or whatever, and it had a refrigerator in there, a microwave, and if we want to keep like food or something in the refrigerator or something like that, we was welcome to. They had we all got assigned different chores. Some people would clean the day room or in the laundry room. Some people would clean like the hallway, mop the hallway, sweep the hallway and the stairs. Some people would clean the bathroom or whatever. They would each get assigned a chore, and we did that, and then we had to leave at a certain time and come back at a certain time. I would do my chores, and then I would leave, go do what I needed to do, handle my business, and then come back at a certain time so that the van driver could take me to go pick up my daughter from daycare. And then we'll go back to the center, and then everybody would just, meet back at the center, if they in order to catch a ride to the church that evening. We could leave by about 5:30 or something like that, 5 o'clock, 5:30, to be at the church in time for dinner. The people who host us that night at church would feed us dinner and provide breakfast for us that morning. And then we'd do it all over again the next day for the rest of the week. Now on Sunday mornings, we leave that church, and then Sunday evening we would go to a different church, and we stayed at that church for a week. Like during the holiday, I remember we stayed in a hotel for like a week or two for Christmas. That way we could spend time with family, and then like people who worked at the shelter can, go home and spend time with their families for the holidays or whatever. So we stayed in the shelter for the remainder of the year, and we didn't have any curfews. We loved staying in a hotel during that time. We loved it. We was so happy. I remember like a girl that I was friends with in the shelter. Shout out to Ebony. Like, we would be so happy when we got to stay at the hotel. We would be so happy. Like, yeah, we stayed in the hotel this week. We ain't got no curfew. We was happy. So that was a really good time. But it's also a difficult time for me because it had got to a point where me and my daughter was the only family staying in the shelter. The only one. I think the last people to leave before I did was my friend Ebony, because she had got her place or whatever. And we were the only one. Like, me and my daughter was the only one left. And I was getting so frustrated because everybody was finding a place to live, getting their apartments and all that kind of stuff, and I was getting nothing. I was putting in all this work to go and try to find me a house, my roof over my daughter's head, and I was getting so frustrated in this shelter. So I was like really feeling like I was never gonna get it. Like, I was like so depressed. I felt like I was never gonna find a place to live. I felt like it was over. It finally came the time for me and my daughter to actually leave the shelter. So I went back and stayed with the same friend who, I think this is before. I went back and stayed with the friend who had us sitting outside. Now whatever. Kicked us out. Lied about, he lied about people giving him a hard time just so I would leave. Yeah, we went to go stay with him for like, I think a couple days or so like that. something like that. And then I ended up staying in like a pay by week hotel place. I stayed there for a week. I paid for a whole freaking week, and I stayed there, which is really a waste of my money. Like, I was still getting money. My daughter was getting a check, and so that money was still coming in. I was getting money. It just wasn't enough money to find a place. Also, before I left the shelter, I met a girl, another girl named, it was 2 Ebonies I met in there. And this particular Ebony, she had a little girl. She had like a little girl. I don't know if she was pregnant. She was pregnant, and she had a little girl. She was pregnant at the time. And so, she told me about these apartments that was taking applications. So I went there and I put in an application. I told the shelter, I asked the shelter to write me a letter saying that I was homeless and I needed a place to stay. And I went and I put in the application at the apartments.